Good afternoon, members. Welcome to the Youth Roundtable. And today's topic is what is the state of political parties in Uganda ahead of the 2026 elections. And we are with esteemed and delighted to have esteemed panelists with us. And we shall start with their introductions from the extreme left.
Thank you so much, moderator. So privileged to be here this afternoon. Good afternoon, our viewers. My name is Caleb Gashema, a student at Makerere University and also a student leader. I serve as the Academic Affairs Minister of Makerere University. I belong to the Alliance for National Transformation, Muk Chapter. So glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Itungo Joan. A former student of Uganda Christian University, the student leader of the 25th Guild Government, and I'm a lawyer by profession. I'm privileged to be here, and I belong to the NRM party. Thank you.
Amazing. So my name is Aybale Shedrick. I should have said that at the beginning, but yeah, Aybale Shedrick. So when we talk about political parties, we tend to assume political parties are supposed to put forward their individual interest. But then the individual interest, does the individual understand the whole notion of political parties? So for example, when the whole notion of individual sovereignty and supremacy came up during leadership way back, because before it was more of the king was a supreme, and then that was the leader by then, and then the individual didn't have any right or say. So basically, maybe the only thing that would mitigate the king's rule would be maybe like belief in a certain god or the religion that they had by then, maybe like in Egypt, the Horus, the all-seeing eye. But then the thing of the individual supremacy came in, and that was a great addition to state politics and everything, because that's what has been holding our state in place for a very long time, the notion of the individual sovereignty. So when the individual sovereignty came in, that's the whole notion of that your rights are inherent and not gotten from the government, but you have them that way they are. And that's the Bill of Rights, for the English Bill of Rights, and also adopted by our Ugandan Constitution. And that's Article 38 of the Ugandan Constitution, that now people can engage in governance of the country through maybe civic societies or governance directly. And that's maybe political parties where you represent the individual interests. But then the individuals don't understand the notion of the political party. Maybe sometimes we think we do, because the only people interact with is an uneducated sector of the population. But then Uganda in majority, that's not how it is. Maybe the educated are like 5% or 10, if maximum 10. And then what about the rest? I love this example my dad usually uses of when they were talking about corruption in the village, and they told one of the members, the government is stealing our money, that's why we need to stand up and fight for corruption, fight against corruption. And then one of the individuals asked genuinely, not even in a very hilarious or comical way, that I put my money in the bank, I find it. What do you mean they're stealing our money? And sometimes we think that's trivial and doesn't matter, but that's the population we are dealing in. So before we engage in this topic of political parties, I would love for Itungo Joan to give us a history of political parties and what they stand for and what they actually mean for a normal Ugandan or an average Ugandan, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. From your statements, as you say that there is an educated Ugandan and an average Ugandan, I'd like to take us through the history, because I believe that with a modern society, perhaps we had history, or we had our ancestral beliefs as Ugandans. So Uganda has had a privilege that we have had political parties, or we have had the chance of having traditional leadership or cultural heritage just right out from the 1990s. And we can see this from the Buganda Kingdom and the Toro Kingdom, whereby in Uganda they had the Ruchiko, and the representation would either be on endorsement or the representation. So we can see this, and later we had in 1961, whereby we had Legico, which we studied in history, because I a bit did history in my secondary school, and where the Legico came in and introduced the first elections, and these elections were majorly to hope the Ugandans to be represented among the British. And because the Uganda saw it as a way of being boycotted by then. That was in 1962, where Uganda boycotted and stated that they cannot be represented by other political parties. That was DP and UPC. And to take us back, in 1961, UPC and DP participated, and this is where DP won with votes of 43, and UPC had 37, if I remember well. And here we bring in the Uganda boycotting the election, and after that, they send the representatives of the Ruchiko, because by then, since they were living in cultural heritage, and the Kabaka and the chiefs, based on representation, so they sent 21 representatives of the Ruchiko to represent them, and that's how we got in the general election in 1963, and from 1985 to 2005, we had a free movement whereby you getting into a certain position, or you ruling the people or leading the people. It was not based on political party merit, but on personal merit. Then there we see the Electoral Commission coming in, people participating, and the other political parties developing since then. Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that can do for a brief history of our political parties. So we now understand that we are under the reign of the NRM. And would you say, maybe Mr. Caleb, would you say that the NRM does the NRM have an ideology? And if they do have an ideology, are they pushing it to the right extent? Are they representing the rights of the people in the right or proper manner? And what would be their shortcomings in this reign?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Asking whether they have an ideology is maybe should be a discussion we should have, but we should ask, does NRM move on the ideology that it has? Do the members know what the NRM stands for? I presume NRM has an ideology, because the president, Mr. Museveni, is such a brilliant man and someone who is recommendable of what good things he's doing or he has done. But that is not enough. Though he has done the good things, he has also done the bad things. There is an analogy whereby someone said that the Museveni of 1986, if the Museveni of 1986 meets the Museveni of today, they would fight. Because these are two different people. One is contradicting the other. The one that we had, the first version, knew what the people wanted and always heeded to what the interests of the people were. There are very many statements that he always made concerning the interests of the people, the welfare of the people, and I want to commend Daily Monitor. Has been bringing those quotes when he was in Mbarara. He had a rally there. There's a rally he had in Mulago. He made those good speeches that inspired people, that made people believe in him. But today we are having a different version. Someone who is trying to hegemonize the country, to control everything, to control power around himself and the family. Therefore, I believe NRM has an ideology. Even when you look at the 10 points program, something that is very good, something that is exciting, something that is for the good of the people. But our discussion, I think, should go deeper into, do they stick to the ideology? Two, do the people, the members of the NRM, know what NRM stands for?
So we have been joined by one more special guest on my immediate left. I'll let him introduce himself and we shall continue the discussion on the state of political parties in Uganda ahead of the 2026 elections.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, my name is Shedrick Aybale. I'm compiled with very many titles I call myself. I'm a human rights activist, I'm a politician, I'm a leader. It's quite a very big lot. But all I can go with is I'm a politician and an activist for the human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shedrick. So we're talking about our political parties' understanding of NRM in general. We understood that and agreed that political parties are special interest groups. They represent the interests of the people. But now, since we are under the reign of NRM currently, do you think it's working efficiently or as to the expectation that it came with into the power to represent those interests of the people? And if it's not, where is its shortcomings?
Well, to start with, the NRM, I can say it began like a new relationship. When it was starting, it was very fine, things were very well, promises were made, which we all understand. But along the way, things change, and it's very normal for things to change. But the challenge is when things change, what do its members do? What does the public do? So I believe like the stand of the NRM at the current in Uganda, despite them moving a little bit off track from what brought them in power, because they fought for freedom, they fought for actually freedom of expression, where Ugandans can freely express their oppressions. But then right now, if you come out and say something that is a bit oppressing you, you're taken up by police or people in civilian wear. Then putting it to the state of political parties, I believe that political parties have become more of a criticism section. If you don't believe in what the government does, so your job is to go the other side and make the noise, even if it's right or it's wrong. Because, for example, I was looking at the case of our colleague, Honorable Matthias Mpuga and his comrades, the money they claimed they swindled. Yet this was the same money that the members of parliament passed. So I asked myself, did they forget that amongst the bills and whatever statements they passed on the floor of parliament, this money was inclusive, that they forgot about it? So other political parties have become now just a point of criticism as of the politics of Uganda. Anything that they see is wrong, even if it's right, they come out and say it's wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I love that you've raised that point of free speech, because you said those are the one of the notions that NRM brought onto Ugandans, their freedom to express themselves and speak freely. And I think that's an inherent right. But then on that freedom of speech, so when we talk about freedom of speech, is it that it's a right that's being denied Ugandans, or it's a right that's in place on book in the laws that we have in the constitution, but then somehow it's not a right that every Ugandan gets to enjoy? For example, let me say how NUP had that successful rally, went to the countryside of the country, and everything was successful, and it was considered a miracle. But then when you look at the thesis of a political party, that's supposed to be normal. That's what a political party is supposed to do. But the fact that it had that kind of rally and intervened, it was celebrated. So don't you think then the whole notion, freedom of speech or expression that was brought forward by the NRM, is quite suffocated by the very people? Because why would we then celebrate a successful rally, yet in normal sense it would have been a trivial matter that shouldn't be spoken about?
Well, the first thing is Ugandans, one of our biggest challenges, we don't know our constitution. We don't know our rights. We keep saying right of freedom of speech, right of what, but then I always love it when someone reads the constitution as a whole. Don't go and quote one section and base your defense statement on one section of that, of the constitution, when it has an A, B, C, D, or maybe a clause 1, a clause 2, and a clause 3. So we always talk of right of freedom of expression. But then the question comes, have you sought permission to do that? For example, the rally of the NUP comrades. Why they celebrated it? Because they wrote a letter. Police granted them that. You won't start traversing the country. I don't know if the NRM does it, because you're in power, so you don't need to seek permission. But for other political parties, they always address to the police that we are going to move to places A, B, C, D. That's sharing with Ugandans reasons A, B, C, D. So then the police has to wait down and see, is this security conscious, or it's a threat, or it's just something normal? So their consultations was quite a good move. That's why it wasn't really seen as something bad, according to me, because people have different opinions regarding the NUP rallies. Then why I said we don't know our constitution, because most Ugandans, when you want to demonstrate, there are steps you have to follow. Don't wake up one morning, go on the street with a placard, and start shouting. Yes, you have a right to shout, but make what we call necessary noise. Don't start making noise in that it will involve a lady who's selling tomatoes by the roadside to lose her business. For her, she wasn't a part of your demonstrations. That's why we have that confinement by police. Don't do this, don't make noise of this kind. If you want, seek permission. Because they don't only look at your side as a person who wants to freely speak, but look at what will your speaking or your freedom of speech do to the other people who are not involved as a part of it.
Okay.
So I feel like our freedom of speech, it's a bit limited, but then also we don't understand the law well. We think when you want to demonstrate, get up, go shout, and come back home. No. That's according to me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I love that it's according to you. And you raised the point of NRM, and does it need to ask permission? We shall get back to that later. But for now, let me move to Mr. Caleb. So what makes up a political party would then be the ideology that you've come with, you've brought to the forefront. And you said you stand with ANT. So what ideologies do you think ANT pushes forward that would then supersede the NRM ideologies, or some ideology that you stand for? Because during the Cecilia Ogwal's incident, there's this woman who was always for NRM, like for the longest time possible. I'm not sure how long, but she has always been affiliated with NRM. But now seeing that she could no longer fulfill her desires with NRM at the moment, she comes and now wraps herself in red and everything. She says, now I'm for NOPE. And I think that would then be a problem, because our parent political parties, the ones that set us foundation for the political parties, had people of high moral character and integrity, because they would then join for an ideology and fight for that ideology. But now, if we're having such things coming into place where people go in for their own desires, ideologies are no longer made a substantial element of being part of a political party. Yet that should be. What ideologies do you think ANT raises or NT raises that would supersede or that would be good for the nation?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Maybe before I go to the question you've asked me, it's so unfortunate that an activist is having an entitlement kind of thing, whereby he says that NRM, other political parties have to seek permission except NRM. That is so unfortunate, honestly. But that aside, you've talked about someone who is NRM, the next day is NUP. That is all about, in business, before you start any business, you have to first study the environment. Where you're going to put the business, which kind of business, who will be your customers, what do they need, what don't they need. So for this particular lady, of course, she studied the environment. She studied her audience. What are they feeling now? By then, it was a wave of NUP. So she felt, if I'm colored red, these people will easily embrace me. And it's all about understanding the audience. And that came about because earlier you talked about civic engagement. There is a shortage of civic awareness. So our people are no longer embracing the ideologies and the inspirational dreams that I want a Uganda that looks this way. I want our region to be in this kind of format. I want our region to be competing with other regions, for instance, Central. People no longer want to listen to that. Okay? Politics has been monetized. Politics has been has had that element of vibe. You come with vibe, then people vote for you. You come with money, you bring the bread. We always call it Chigata at Makerere University. You come with the bread, and people will vote for you. So whether you have the ideology or whether you stick to the ideologies of your party, they don't want to hear. Even so, that calls for civic awareness. We teach our people, please, let's first listen to these people talk. What do they have for us? What plans do they have? After getting to office, what is next? So some people get stranded after getting to office. They don't know what to do next. Because they don't have an ideology. They do not have ideas of what they're planning to do for their people. That's why people we voted for get to office and get lost. Literally, they had no plans of after the election. They might have plans of how to win the election, but they do not have plans of after the election. And what does it call? Someone should be ideologically well-founded for him to have the after-election ideas. So about ANT having an ideology preceding that of NRM, I would like, this is my personal opinion, I would like to think that having NRM, all the political parties in this country, they do not differ a lot in ideologies. There's just little, the way you can add sugar, you add some ingredients, the Royco choose, you know. So they do not differ a lot. But then, where they differ is in the implementation. Okay? Establish the systems. Establish structures, and functional one. Not structures just for formality, that we have these structures. For instance, we are having structures that are dysfunctional, okay, whereby you will have the anti-corruption unit. This anti-corruption unit goes after somebody that embezzled government funds, but then this person goes to the president, then the president says, leave my people. Good enough, the money they steal, they develop our country, they build structures in our country, they come up with developments in our country. Like, seriously? The president saying so? Is that honesty? So, the ideology is there, the ideology is one thing, and then implementation is the other. We are having an NRM that has a good ideology, but does not move. There is that notion that move the talk or something of that kind. So it does not implement what it actually stands, what ideology it has. That's it.
Oh. So, ideology in the manner that, because you see, the parties that we started with, for example, let me say Kabaka, their ideology they'll put forward is that we understood these people for being what? Conservative party. UPC, for example, will believe these people are Republicans. They are fighting the kingdom notion of the whole thing. And I think civilized nations have put this on a pedestal, because it would be unfortunate, or it would even be appalling, if an American said, I'm a traditionalist, but you know what, tomorrow I'm switching. That's unheard of. That would really cause shock. And it's unfortunate that in Uganda, that's as trivial and mundane as possible, where you can easily do that and you still have the respect of the people and the votes of the people. So I'll come to Itungo Joan. I love the analogy you used of comparison of the modern political system to maybe to the Lukiko and everything, because when you look at it in that way, maybe the advisors of the Lukiko then would be the arms of government. For example, maybe those heads of the arms of the government, maybe President Museveni for the executive, then judiciary, like that. Those are the advisors, then the Lukiko being comprised of these other aspects. So I want to ask you, there's been a notion that has been going around that democracy is not for Africa, that this everything we are trying to do, we should just give up. What do you think about the whole notion of democracy being for Africa? Is it something achievable, or it's just a false dream?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. One thing is that I'm a Pan-Africanist, if I might say, and an alumni from the Julius Nyerere Leadership Center. So I'm going to speak in a point of Pan-Africanism, that what the statement you've said, that it's just something that we are not going to achieve, is that Julius Nyerere once stated that democracy is not a bottle of Coca-Cola that you're going to import. You cannot go to a country, and because we have many political parties, you determine that this party has democracy.
Sure.
We cannot depend on multi-party parties for us to say that that country has democracy. So democracy, us coming up, having many political parties, does not mean that we are going to have the democracy that we want. Realize that even amidst the many political parties, there is a lot of conflict, divisionism. Even the party that starts as one, at the end, it has different headquarters. We have for this, at the hill and then down. So now you find that even the public is confused. instead of the public rallying behind a specific political party, the public started rallying behind this person, but now this person says, I can no longer belong here, I'm here. So it takes a lot of confusion for the public to divert from this route and now to this route. That's how you find some people, their feet are divided, like one is here, one is here. So that means the ideology you're fighting for, you even cannot achieve it. Because the citizens are confused. As I told you that we have the cultural heritage and also the modernized era. Not every person is exposed. We have people deep down in the villages whom you talk to about democracy and they really won't understand you. Because for them, as long as the person does farming, eats, sleeps, wakes up, they're not experiencing any riot or anything, they are okay. But then it so happens that there is a political party, as we had, depending on the topic that we have, ahead of 2026. I can give an example that as we fight for democracy, there are some political parties that even the people in my village don't know about. Truth be told, they don't know about. And as he stated that someone comes up to stand on the fact that which flag am I holding for people to embrace me? What does that mean? You have your own personal interests, but now you look for who can be my, someone who can take me through this. If I've been FDC and now it's 2026, however, I feel there is a political party that has come with a lot of vibe that these people can easily embrace because people are hungry. Also, they have their own interests. So instead of standing by their ideologies with the party that has put for your foundation, now you run to a party because perhaps people are not, how can I say, they don't know much about this political party. They are seeing it as if it's the only hope or it's the only party that is going to promote their interests. So because you think this side, you have failed, sorry to say, now you run to this side to say, with these people will embrace me. So what does that tell you? People are no longer standing on their ideologies. People are coming up without the individual conscience. People are no longer standing on a social basis to run for arrest or to lead the people. So when you talk about democracy, is that I don't believe that us coming up with many political parties or coming up and convincing people that we don't have the democracy is going to help us to get the democracy that we want. We can still have the democracy with a few political parties because it is going to become like, I don't know how to term it because personally things confuse me. Today this is the president, tomorrow now the chief whip of the party is no longer on. The next day this one got funds, the next day this one has, it's a lot of confusion around the country. And this will cause, actually this is a benefit to the leading party. Why? Because if the opponents are not organized, that means the leading party is winning. Because in the opposition, it's like someone working to embrace or to please the chairman in order to get the flag. But then the other way around, it's like people are going to the grassroots. They are going to the grassroots to win the hearts of the people, to get those flags on merit, and not the fact that I'm embracing or I'm pleasing the chairman. And with this disorganization, since the topic is in regards to 2026, it is a very short period between today and 2026. By the time we reach 2026, some parties won't be on agreement of who to lead, of which candidate to be on the ballot. And then after that, the confusion will come up of there is rigging of elections, there is this, but even in the inner, the inner party activities, what you're exposing to the public can say it all. As I earlier stated, not everyone is informed. Because someone is in the village, however much you're trying to explain to someone in Kampala, not someone from my district, Kazo will understand. No, because not everyone watches TV, Not everyone reads newspapers. Not everyone will know whose interests. Not everyone will know who is corrupt. For them, the person on the ballot will determine, and they will determine who to lead them by the person who has gone to the grassroots. So as I stated, democracy is not a bottle of Coca-Cola that you're going to import. No, we cannot purely determine democracy on the multi-parties that are in the nation. I believe that the democracy that we have, if we want to improve on the democracy that we are having right now, we can still have it without the divisions, without the different political parties and the many formations. Because unity is one of the things that can help us achieve what we want as a nation. It doesn't need a lot. But if we divide ourselves into portions, by the time we think of joining these portions, it might be too late. Thank you.
That's interesting. Unity. And it's fortunate enough that I agree with you on the democratic stand that you have, that democracy can indeed be something. Maybe we can hope it's something that can be achieved in Africa, because when you look at the ANC, South Africa, it's something they have, at least they are way better than us, I will say. Or the Chama Penduzi in Tanzania, these people actually, their democracy front is a bit higher than ours, because there is no way that Hassan will be above the party, which is a different case probably in Uganda. So then I'll ask you, because we had a standing of NRM. So to start a political party is not something easy. Let me say I have a very good ideology, that why I'm seated here, and I believe this will be helpful to Ugandans. I can't just start a political party, because I read that we need, at least you need, if you start a political party, at least a minimum funding of 5 billion annually. And that's not small money. That's really a lot of money. And then now let's say the funding is to be given to you by the private sector. Maybe you've gotten someone. And it's different. It's a different case for NRM, because it as a political party, it can use the national treasury. But now let me say I'm starting my political party and I choose to name it something else. And then I need 5 billion. Where am I going to get it? Because even if I get a private person who believes in me, a private sector to fund me that believes in me, it will still be suffocated. Maybe URA will give them a tax billing that they have never seen in their lives, and they will give up. We have seen private people trying to fund various political parties. For example, I'll give the example of, is it Garuga and the Forum for Democratic Change? And it was a private person trying to fund a political party, and we'll see how that went. So in your view of NRM, how does that shape us as a country, or what's our hope as a country, that the party in power can't be competed against because of various reasons, and that being funding? What does that have to say about us as a democratic country, in quotes?
Well, to state it clearly, the NRM can be challenged.
How?
But the question is, how organized are you? My sister just raised the point of having very many political parties. If you would have a point, you see how the United States is organized. There are 2 parties, we know. The race is between 2 parties. What plays to the NRM's advantage is the more you get confused and you keep dividing yourselves as politicians and political parties, the more Ugandans say these ones are confused. They form the group, again they are splitting up. It's better to be with the devil you know than the angel who's trying to come out and show you they're good. And then to what now, where does that leave it? Because the NRM, why I'm saying can be challenged, if all politicians are to put aside the greed for power, and they decide to say, you know what, 2026, let's form an alliance. We front one candidate. If you look at the previous elections, what kills votes is division, right? In the number of votes. Mugisha Muntu comes out. Patrick Oboya comes out. Patrick Amuriat comes out. Then you're still there. Katumba has the youth influence, he comes out. Then you ask yourself, are these the people who want to oust out the president in power? What the NRM does is they endorse their candidate. If you don't want their candidate, switch to the next party. But now the question is, the party you're switching to has over 6 people who want to hold the presidential flag. But the question is, of all the 6 who want to hold the presidential flag, who has the power and the influence to oust out the sitting president? People always forget that question. I like the fact that Chagulanyi Sentamu came out. He had the youth backing. But the challenge is they didn't sit on a round table with his other counterparts. If they sat down with the FDC, with the UPC, with DP, elections would have run very smoothly and nicely. But the mere fact that they still have that confusion, you're running around like young chicken, up and down, trust me, you can never defeat an organized army, no matter how much voices you have. And the mistake we have as Ugandans, people who make a lot of noise are not voters. Because trust me, elections come, people are in their boutiques working, people are in their spare shops working, few travel to the village. And those who travel to the village travel there to hide in case violence breaks out. If it was like the government would say, this whole week of voting, no working. Go cast your vote and it's a must. Because this is your right. Your vote matters. But trust me, if we still have this confusion of here and there, the NRM will rule as long as it wants. Even Museveni will come out and say, I'm tired. You also have the what? The stick and run the race. That again brings me now. My colleague was talking about politics being monetized. One day I was at an event with the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayewa, and he told us Romushana and Jim Muhwezi, Honorable Jim Muhwezi, once tussled it out in an election in the old days. Then that time of campaigns, Romushana stood and told the villagers, don't vote this man, he doesn't bury. He's always that side hiding, he only comes when what? Then Honorable Jim Muhwezi stood up and said, I've come at this burial, not so, I'm going to give you 5 million to fund your burial. People forgot the fact that this gentleman had just spoken a few minutes ago, that the person who's campaigning against him doesn't bury. In that our politics of Uganda has reached a point, the one who has money calls the shots. That's why me, when I see these MPs talking about Museveni must go, Museveni must go, I place this to be a challenge. Every member of parliament who has been in parliament for more than 2 terms, let them not come back 2026. Those are the only people who will be eligible enough to tell the president, enough is enough, you're too old to lead the country, step down. But it won't make sense. You preach water, but you're drunk on wine. Then someone asks you, where do you take the wine from? One day I had to challenge Honorable Mujiche, right? I told him, sir, you're always saying Museveni has delayed in power. How many times have you served in parliament? You don't want to leave parliament. Leave parliament, make noise on the side. The president will be challenged. But as long as the Honorable Betty Nambos are still going to pick nomination forms, the Honorable Mujiche is going to pick nomination forms, the Nandara Mafabis, it doesn't make sense. You can't tell someone you're playing in mud. Come on, yet you yourself, you have mud stains on your fingers, on your feet. People ask you, how did you get that mud on you? So we should really start being realistic opposition. Don't be opposition or opposition because you want to make noise, voters see you, our MPs shouting in parliament. But then when you go back home, you're then texting the Prime Minister, I want to meet His Excellency, I'm very broke. These MPs are broke, that's the truth. But they don't accept the fact that they are broke. They want to maintain a status, invite him guest of honor. He has borrowed money from some money there, he has come to an event, he gives you 5 million. But on his way back to Kampala from the event, he's saying, I've given that money, how will I get it back? That's why you hear bills were passed. Then MPs say, I wasn't in parliament. You knew a sitting was going to be there. What took you to go and be in a restaurant to demonstrate? Yet you would come in parliament and sit and vote against that. That means this person told you, have 20 million, stay away from parliament. Organize a press conference, say for us we are boycotting that sitting. You know, sometimes Ugandans should read between the lines of these political games they play. So, me, I don't blame the NRM for us being in power. They are organized. In Uganda, be organized.
So you endorse the president?
I have no problem, as long as you're organized. For us, we have no problem with you. But now we won't be led by people who are confused. This one is saying, I want to be the party president. People are saying, no, you want only this one. Let someone else run the race. Let them feel the heat. Let them feel the pinch of the finance. the financial implications of an election. Because trust me, now FDC power wants to come back. You hear again, the Katonga function is creating its own political party. Then we are still there. Even the NUP we had hope in, again, Mpuga wants to break away. Yeah? Chagulanyi also has issues. Then why are they forming cocoons amongst themselves? True. You can't defeat an organized army, no matter how few they are.
Personal interests.
Yes, that shows you how politicians are greedy. Too money-minded. Someone will tell you, we are fighting a dictator. Yet you yourself, you don't want someone in your party to lead you. You want to also fight him. So, me, I think, as long as you're organized, you can always achieve anything.
You can take over
anything.
And I love that submission. It has been quite insightful, and I love how you emphasized organized army. So anyway, we shall get back to this discussion. Let's take a short break, and we shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that short break, and we are glad you're able to join us again for this very interesting topic and these well-esteemed guests on our topic of what the state of political parties in Uganda ahead of the 2026 elections. We're with Mr. Caleb, ANT, Itungo Joan, NRM, lawyer, and Mr. Aybale, NRM. So when we were ending out the previous discussion, I love how you kept emphasizing an organized army. And that reminds me of a very important point, the state capture. So Ugandans, in a democratic sense, are complaining that how are we supposed to take over something that has an army? Because if you look at NRM, its establishment was in a military form. And I don't think much has changed of the NRM then as a movement and the NRM now as a party. Because look at it in this way, during elections, there will be an army at the polling stations. And then maybe someone might argue that's for protection, but protecting Ugandans from whom at that moment? And sometimes they say the Electoral Commission cannot do something or cannot execute something unless they are being sanctioned. And that negates the whole thing of checks and balances and maybe the rule of law. For example, checks and balances, to use your analogy of the Lukiko and the kind of traditional setting that we had in Uganda. Let me say, for example, how Ugandans or Baganda in particular pick a hair. It's the sisters that choose. They say, you know what, there are 10 boys, but we think maybe Caleb will be a better hair for this. And that's a check because they're the ones who know how good a leader you are. It's not the father to say, because of my interest, I've picked this one. So that's a check and balance. And this kind of set capture suffocates those checks and balances. What do you have to say about that? Will it still be an achievable democratic, let me say, a democratic party can still achieve its purpose to put its ideology forward, even with a state capture going on where every opinion is suffocated and going forward is made really hard and unattainable?
Thank you. I believe the army involvement in politics shouldn't really be something we should pick of concern, because we have seen that way from 2001, 2006, and so on and so forth. But then the question should be, how do Ugandans react to the army involvement in elections? One thing I've seen is when we see the army involvement, maybe at polling stations, we get intimidated. People don't turn up to vote. People start saying, when I go there, what a Ugandan should do is, for you do your role. go cast your vote. If they rig, it will be seen. What breaks my heart is whenever elections reach, you start seeing that the voter turnout was at this percentage, even below average. Then you ask yourself, we are now almost entering 50 million in population, and then eligible voters are about close to maybe 30-something million. What happens to all those 30-something million voters? We should stop blaming the government every time saying, actually, we should always stop looking for a scapegoat and say, because the army was there, we didn't vote. These gentlemen, maybe they were put there to just stand and watch over something. For you, come out, cast your vote, go away. Or maybe stand there and guard your vote. It would make sense if the Electoral Commission chairman comes out and says, voter turnout was at 99%. There, trust me, even you will feel the weight of your vote. But you can't complain that the army was there when the voter turnout was way, very low. Because now, who voted and who didn't vote? Everyone will claim I voted, because now they'll go back home to get a marker they label here. But in the actual sense, if you check the voters register, many names weren't ticked. Where do all these voters go? So we should stop using that scapegoat of saying the army was involved. The army will always be there. Even if you look at other countries, when they're having their elections, the army is always there. It's not like our case is special, that our army being in an election or maybe in a voting process, it's a bit weird. No. Kenya, we have seen the army involved. South Africa, the army is always there. Because me, I love looking so much at Africa. I don't like crossing beyond Africa. Even if you look at Nigeria, you look at Ghana, the army is there. But the question is, even if the army is there, how is your response to voter turnout? I was so glad when I saw a young president being voted in Africa. It was a shock. But this is a country where the army was guarding the votes. The army was there fully on ground, the whole entire voting process. And then what makes them special that we can't do the same? So me, I just encourage Ugandans, never get intimidated. If you feel you're eligible to vote, get up, go cast your vote, stand there. This gentleman won't see you standing guarding your vote, and he slaps you. Because these army men, they're also humans, they have emotions. He won't be guarding a vote, and then you come shouting, they are rigging. Yet the man is standing this side. He will ask you who. If you see someone rigging, we have social media. Social media is very powerful. Expose the culprits. But every time claiming here, this and the army blocked us, the army did this. If they blocked you, record the footage, drop online. We have X, we have TikTok, we have what? The videos will go viral. But then when they say voter turnout is low, and you're complaining that we want to impact change when you're not voting, it doesn't make sense. It's like saying, I want to be rich. But you wake up at home, you sit on your bed. You put on TV, you watch Netflix, you watch football, you go and bed. Then you say, I want to be rich. Get up and go work. If you want change, get up, go cast your vote. As simple as that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that submission, Mr. Aybale. So now I'll ask you, Mr. Caleb, because from his submission, I can tell that he's quite comfortable with the status quo of Uganda. But on the contrary, I see you giving nods and very intimidating gazes. So I'll ask you, are you comfortable with the status quo of Uganda? And if not, why not?
I'm disappointed, honestly. As my colleague was introducing himself, had very many titles. But then you can't. No offense.
It's very fine.
Talking about the army, the involvement of the army in the politics, and relating that to the voter low turnout, these are two different things. The army, the involvement of the army in the politics comes in such instances. We've seen, you've been talking about people recording the videos to share on social media. We've seen incidents whereby the army using army vehicles plus people in plain clothes abducting people from their residences. It's on record.
That's true.
It's on record. You can go to X, go to YouTube, go everywhere. Even if we did a simple search on YouTube right now, you would see the videos. The army itself, plus the police, every security agency, ISO and CMI, all kind of people. And we've seen testimonies of people that have been abducted, and when they come back, they will tell you that they have been asking you, why do you support Bobi Wine? They ask them, the people that are funding them, the foreigners. Because in Uganda, it's on record, every activist is funded by foreigners. Whether you're patriotic enough or not, when you stand up to talk against what is going wrong in our country, you are considered to be funded by the foreigners. That's how low activism has been taken in our country. And this is spearheaded by the president himself. So, talking about the voter law turn-up, this is a discussion we should have. And I believe it has been going on even before today. The voter law turn-up is inspired by, there are places you go before you even, it's 7 or 8 a.m., before you cast your votes, they are already ticked ballot papers. And guess whom they have voted for? It's on record. At night, 9 p.m., when the voting day is the next day, you will see the videos are there on X, just gunned on YouTube. Videos are there whereby people, of course, state agents, are sniffing with ballot papers into the ballot boxes, already ticked ballot papers. And there are also instances whereby the number of votes are more than the number of people at that particular polling station. And this happens in places which support the incumbent. This is on record. This is not a hearsay or something. It's on record. I want to give homework to my colleague to go and do just simple searches. Just very, very, very simple homework. Go on YouTube, type in the 2021, just put 2021 elections in Uganda. Trust me, you'll get the videos. Go on Twitter. You will see the evidence is there. But what has the government done? Of course, this is something that she does deliberate, and of course, no action will be taken. And when you stand up, when you stand to speak about it, you are considered to be funded by, I don't want to say the word, by foreign funders. So, I think we need electoral reforms. We need electoral reforms as a country, and the goal of electoral reforms is to respect and consider the voices of the people. Okay? And that speaks to why people don't turn up, because their choices aren't respected. Why would I turn up if at all the rigging is done up on during the broad daylight? It's on record. So why would I if in 2001 I came, same thing happens. 2006 I come, you still rig the votes? Where I'm seeing 2011, why would I come back in 2016, honestly? Why would I? Why would I? And my brother, please, as you encourage people to turn up to vote, you should also, I don't think that they don't know that what they are doing is wrong, but I was going to say, you should advise the government and the state agents to respect the opinions of the people. These things are done on broad daylight. We saw the Speaker of the Parliament in a session whereby she said yes or no, and I hope you've all seen that video. And she goes to the contrary of the majority. On broad daylight, these people no longer get ashamed. They do everything, they're not ashamed, and life goes on. Why? They have the power. They control the resources. They control the army. All the security agents are controlled by them. And once you stand up to speak against the impunity that is happening, you are either funded by the foreigners or you are abducted. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that submission. And I'll say it does carry some weight because majority of what he has said is probably true. So then I'll
Not
pose,
probably, it is true.
Absolutely true. I'll pose then a question to Itungo Joan. because you and Aybale are NRM, so probably have the same ideological, maybe stand view and point, but there's only one way to prove that. So the voter turn up and the correlation between people giving up, as you said, I can't keep turning up for a dead cause. How would you say that there is a voter misturn up? And if that's true, statistically, as he has said, that people don't come for votes, and if that's true, how would you then suggest NRM fix this, or the entire nation fix this, so that people can now be motivated to vote? And also, when they're motivated to vote, would their vote count and not be suffocated by the maybe reigning party, as he has suggested? Is that a possibility? Can it be something that can be achieved?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Though he insisted that it's not probably true, it is true, and you responded that it is true. I don't know whether you also marginalized.
My submission was probably. He said absolutely, and
I don't
that's
know.
his opinion.
I
I don't know whether you also marginalized to his side. So the question is, I would start with on a way of agreement and criticizing his statements. Starting with saying that it is on record. As a lawyer, I believe in facts. So everything is stated that it is on record, it is on record. But however, we are in a country where we have different arms of government. We have the judiciary, we have the executive, we have... So the legislature, so I believe that every arm of government has its own role to play. So if the army is there, I believe that is for security reasons. If there is anything that has happened not in regards to security, people petition. People go to court, they petition against the results from their incumbents or from their opponents. And they petition, and these are cases in court because I work with the judiciary, and people get court decisions or rulings in regards to that. So the other issue he talked about is that he mentioned that the issue of the speaker. You see, one thing as the country that we don't have, I don't know if it's a mindset or not being informed, is that this speaker is elected by these members of parliament. And we are the people that elect these members of parliament.
Exactly.
So if what you're saying right here, you entrusted your MP with a mandate to represent you in parliament. So, because we believe that everyone has the place where they stop on in giving their opinions. However, we have representatives. So if the speaker is doing something that you don't like, however, you entrusted your mandate with your member of parliament and is seated right there in parliament, listening to the speaker, because the member of parliament is supposed to present the views from their constituencies. So if your member of parliament is voting for what the speaker is in agreement with, I think it's better to first blame the member of parliament before you blame the speaker who was elected by the member of parliament. And how can we do this? That's why I come in. I think as the young people, 2026 is coming. If you believe that the member of parliament is not doing what you believe in, stand up. Go for that position.
And then I'll raise another question
to
you still. Stand up. It sounds as easy as stand up. But then when the youth, as recently noticed, tried to stand up, we saw a bit of the army coming into play again and suffocating. And his point of people dressed as normal men, I happened to witness that when the border rider was using and a person next to him came and parked next to us, he was also an army man but dressed as a border rider. So in that moment, I had my opinion to share with the border rider I was with. But then he taps me and says, keep quiet. Then he points. At that moment, I didn't understand. But when this guy drove away, he picked up a stick and beat someone adjacent to us. And that's the point he was raising of army men coming dressed as normal people. So now, if the youth try to stand up, and this was the reaction that was given, and even during the president's talk, he did not support their cause of action. He instead what? Lampooned it. So how do we just stand up and fight or replace, because apparently someone is corrupt, How do we get that courage? Yet we know there is army playing. Because I remember that day my mother was sick and worried. She said, you know what, if you do anything and you go to prison, that's on you. Don't say anything. Even a simple state should say, remove this. This is not okay. They are watching you. And that's a state very many Ugandans are in. And this is a grown woman meanwhile. But she feels that I'm being watched and she's scared for her son. How do I then get the courage to stand up? Yet I know there are very dire consequences at the end of my action.
Well, thank you so much. As I was still saying, you standing up does not only stop on rioting, but my statement, I said we are approaching 2026. 2026 is you standing up. Stand up for that position, for the member of parliament. Go and challenge the person. And as the young people, if you believe that what is happening, you're not aligned with what is happening or you're not benefiting as the young people, then oppose the people in government. If you feel the representative you send to parliament is sidelining with the speaker, whom he said that is being controlled by the other arms of government, then go and represent the young people. Here, I encourage all the young people to stand up and take on those positions. In line with the statement, as he earlier stated from the beginning, he said that when you're reading the Constitution, as Ugandans, one thing we need to know is read it as a whole. If you're reading article this, read the article, read the clause. One thing that we are ignorant about as Ugandans is that we tend to take the headline, but not the content within the headline. So, and when he asked, I don't know if he's the one who asked or it's you asked about the successful rally of the NUP, he told you as an activist, why I'm referring because he's an activist based on his introduction, and there is a certain procedure that you follow. He stated that make sure that whatever you're going to do as the youth, if you're going to cause a strike, if I may say is that on the street we are on, there are some other businesses that are taking place on those streets. I'm not saying that what they're fighting or striking for is not right. No, it is right. But there are certain procedures that we need to follow for something to be successful. That's why people are celebrating the rally of the NUP being successful. Did anyone die? Didn't they achieve what they wanted to achieve? They did. So here I bring in the point of dialogue. Can we have a dialogue as the youth? To raise our voices, because I believe that even after striking and we fail to have the dialogue with the leaders, still there will be no difference as the youth. But then we need to stand up. If plan A has failed, if you have caused the strike, it has failed, go back to your constituents. Stand up, mobilize. They were updating the register. As he stated that regardless of the army, that people are not turning up to vote. As someone who is coming from a political party standing on ideologies, can I be proud to say that people are not coming to vote because they don't see the future, they have no hope for the future? No. They have been updating the registers. The registers, how many people are aware that they must register ahead of the election of 2026?
Whose role is it to inform these people to register?
I am still coming. So, how will people participate if they are not aware? Here, the Electoral Commission comes up. I can assure you that I registered while I was at campus, the NRM registers we are going through. But I didn't see the registers of other political parties. Are they coming 2026? I registered myself. As I stated earlier that in my village, as well as we are planning for 2026, some people are not aware of how many political parties are going to come up. Because we lack the grassroots mobilization. But lucky enough, from the part where I come from, I already registered as a voter. I don't know about other parties. And I cannot proudly say that people should not stand up to fight for democracy because they don't see the future. No. I believe that these political parties have ideologies, they are standing for ideologies, and they're aiming at achieving those ideologies. And there is no way you can achieve those ideologies without participation of the societies, of the people. So, what do? Mobilize the people to participate. If it is 2026, I saw people registering for membership and paying 1,000. Right now, 1,000, what can 1,000 buy? What can you use it to buy? So that's what I'm saying, that people must be enticed to stand up and register and be ready for 2026. That's why I was telling you that democracy, you cannot have it because of the multi-party parties. No, you can have the democracy. If you feel the democracy we are having is not enough for you, then you can still have it as a political party. But then, we are ahead of 2026. Someone is, for example, belongs to FDC in my district, doesn't know whatever is happening with Najana Nkumbi, you know, everything. They don't know what is happening. And here comes the ballot. There are two presidents. Someone doesn't know this one falls where, this one falls where. So I think it's the role of there must be unity of the stakeholders in this election process. If the political party work hand in hand with the Electoral Commission, let people be mobilized, let people be sensitized and informed ahead of 2026. If you feel the Electoral Commission is not doing its role, as I earlier told you that NRM, I registered even before I graduated, I already registered as a voter of 2026. So, are other political parties doing the same? If not, will you claim that people have not turned up to vote for you? And telling people not to turn up to vote for you because you don't see the future. You're demoralizing the societies. You're demoralizing the citizens. You rather sensitize them to come, register, prepare yourself so that if things don't turn up right, as he said that the army is there to torture, petition. But when you've done your role as a person, when you've done your role as a political party, such that there is no loophole that the other party will blame you for. I don't know if I'm trying to.
Okay, I'm getting your point. And before I come to Mr. Caleb,
Yes,
I beg to differ on your point of that we are to blame the people who put in these members of parliament into what? Into the parliament, because they are then the ones in turn who vote for the speaker and everything. Because we already agreed on a point of that. Now it's no longer more on ideologies like it was before, that I'm standing for conservatism or I'm standing for republicanism. Now it's more of pressure groups. Political parties have become pressure groups. So now let me say for example how they used to call them, let me say like Ginger Rural. You say that this side NRM seems to be working well. You know what, I'll go for NRM. There is no ideology there. You're just going for going,
and
maybe for your own interest. So how do we then get to blame the people for the low integrity and character of the people going into parliament? And how do we fix that? How do we make sure that people of high moral standing and integrity are the ones we are voting into parliament?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Earlier you stated that Article 38 it gives the people the right to participate either in the civic spaces or... So there has to be a social base. If I've voted someone, then I can hold that person accountable. What I said, I didn't actually agree with the point of people should be running into political parties because of here, I think I can win if I join this political party. No,
So how do you
stand
fix
on
that?
your ideology. That's why we need people who are committed and people who have the moral character, people who have the personal conscience, that regardless of what vibe I am bringing, I can stand on the firm foundation of my political party, on the ideologies. Because if you're to run through because of which party is winning, that means that you're actually standing for where can I win. And that's why these other political parties are not taking on the spaces. That's why I told you that NRM is leading us and it will still lead us.
So then a minor question, a follow-up minor question.
Yes.
How do we source for these people of high integrity and moral standing? Where do we start from?
We start from whom do you vote? Because if I know that someone was FDC, came to NUP,
That should
and
be...
later is in ANT, what point do you give me to support you? Because these are three political parties in a decade. You've been here, there. So you mean in all these political parties, you've not found where you can improve the ideologies and fight for them? Then that means perhaps these people have personal interests. That is good for power. Because I'm here to say that if I go here, I'll benefit. Next race, if this party is leading, I'll transfer to that. In 2031, if this party is leading, I'll transfer to that. That means I'm not here to make sure that these ideologies are put in place. Or we are here to improve. But I'm here to say, how can I keep in power as a person? That's what he said, that if you're to blame the president for taking long in power, as a member of parliament who has served 3 terms, first blame yourself. If you want to be an example, step down and say, I have served, enough is enough. I think the young people can take on. Then later tell these young people that, you know what, the president has been in power for long. Let us take the president away. But then if you've been in power for 3 terms, you really have nothing to tell us as the young people to take away the president.
Okay.
And as someone from NRM, ahead of 2026, we already know our president for the party. Unlike the others who are still searching around to know who the president of the party is, we already know the president, and we are mobilizing from the grassroots.
He's God-given.
Thank you.
That's interesting. And, you know, on that point, I'll say something small. You know, when the president becomes a semi-demigod, then the state collapses. And we have seen this from history. We learn from our historical mistakes of the Hebrews and everything. And that's known. Anyway, that's just a fact. Then I'll go back to Mr.
Can
Caleb.
I first cut you short? He's saying that, is he God-given? I said the president, not the president of Uganda, but the chair of the party.
Okay.
Ahead of 2026, we know who's going to be an NRM flag bearer as
Your party.
the party.
Okay. I'll go to Mr. Caleb
Thank you.
then. You seem to object to her submission.
Truly, I do. You've taken long to bring him on board, and I was boiling. I'm even forgetting something that I had planned to say, because I had a lot of comments to make, beginning from his submission. I had something to say, but let me begin from my immediate right, the only lady on the panel. I have a feeling greed for power is not bad as long as it serves the interests of the people. If we are to look at why His Excellency the President went to the bush and the colleagues, it was due to greed of power. It's after losing that he thought of going to the bush. I don't know if they're together. So as long as you're serving the interests of the people, I have no problem with you being greedy for power. 2, she said, why don't people that lose bring in the petitions? How many times has Besigye been to court? Numerous times. What has been done? This is something that I always talk when I'm sharing with colleagues. Independency and functionality of institutions. In ANT, we subscribe to the school of thought of institutionalization. If an institution is not independent, you shouldn't even rely on it. We are seeing an instance of the Chief Justice or the judiciary. They made a decision about, you remind me, I don't remember the dates, about the mosque. Then after, the president comes and says, even if something is illegal, but then don't you have common sense? I think there is some issues that had happened with the National Mosque. I think you remember that. So you are seeing that the president is overturning the ruling of the judiciary. This is an arm that should be independent from the other arms.
True.
2, we are man, some things are just funny. Some things are just interesting. And whenever I don't know the selection of the panelists, I'm already frustrated. So, still talking about the independency and functionality of institutions. If you will not have an institution, okay, that depends on another institution to do its operations, okay. So we are seeing the Parliament of Uganda saying, no, this money should go to the healthy should buy ambulances, you know, that bill. But then the president says, no, this money should go to local. Like, seriously? So the parliament, whose responsibility is to because these people are voted by the member of parliaments are voted by the people. that means they represent the opinions of the people. So if these people say, no, please, our people want these healthy facilities, our people want the ambulances, our people want this, but then you say this money should go to ROCO, which is, I think, a private company, if I'm not mistaken. So it's you are having ROCO over the people. So whom are we serving? We have a saying at Makerere. We always ask our leaders, Okolerani, are you working for the people or for your own behalf? That aside, she said, she talked about a registration. But as she was talking about registration, she talked about an NRM register. I think they always refer to it as the Yellow Book. So, when we are voting, do they consider the Yellow Book or the registration of the EC? When we are going to vote, on the day of voting, do they look at the Yellow Book or they look at the records of the Electoral Commission? I even have issues with it being called independent. At home, when your father says, don't you know that I'm the father or I'm the head of this family, know that there are issues. So this Electoral Commission coming and say that it is independent, that means there are issues. It's already frustrated. That's what I was talking about when I said independence of institutions. It's not independent. It's hiding in independence in the nomenclature, but practically it's not. 2021, when they were counting or tallying the votes, the only thing we would see on TV was sheets being brought in, and the chair and his commissioners read. We never saw a registrar or a presiding officer or anyone bring the results all through the internet, and we see the tallying happening. That Bushenyi has brought 90 votes, Nakasongo has 60 votes. It should be free, like it should be. We should be seeing it and witnessing it and feeling it. Not bring the sheets of papers. There's even an instance that happened, and he had to ask a commissioner about some results on the things on the sheets that were written. And you know, why wouldn't I doubt such a system? For things to change in Uganda, one, we always talk about corruption and stuff. We should have systems and structures that are functioning. That is one, because the ones that we have are dysfunctional. Two, we should have structures that still are independent, that run on their own. You will not tell me that you've come up with an anti-corruption unit headed by someone who has involved himself, or who has been convicted by the courts of law in issues concerning corruption, and that person is now heading or overseeing an anti-corruption unit. Like, seriously? That was a real joke. That was a real joke, and an embarrassing one to us, the citizens. Then lastly, I think you've been about to send me away, but he talked about you were talking about Article 38, and she said that if you want to protest, lodge in you ask for permission from the security. Let's just draw in on the march to Parliament. Documents are there showing that these people even got permission from the security. They even had a meeting. It's on record. I was telling her, it's on record. Everything is on record. So, let's just bring in one example. There is a man that successfully made it to Parliament. He was holding his placard like this at Parliament. It was on camera, and the videos are there. The man was saying that, look, this thing is eating us. We are tired of corruption. We are tired of corrupt leaders. Something should be done. This person didn't stone anyone, didn't steal anyone's tomato, didn't step into didn't interfere with anyone's business. Someone's just standing there with a placard, with information, having his message. But then what happens? Security officers on camera come, grab this gentleman, put him under the seats of the van, okay, and then rush to police. So whom did he stone? Whose freedom or whose peace did he interfere with? We are seeing two gentlemen that were moving with placards, marching to parliament. They were on the road. They didn't interfere with anyone's business. They didn't stop any car. They were moving. And then you say that they are interfering with other people's peace. Let's get serious. Thank you so much.
I love your submission and your point on the interest of the people being put into consideration. There was a very trending tweet during that period of the march to parliament that why is it that the government is always chasing away people on the street and battering them on a normal day, but when it comes to time for riots, they say that we are going to battle the people rioting to protect the interests of those we have been battling with for the past days. Why does it then become an issue then? Anyway, that's a conundrum for another day. So I'll pose the question, the last question, because it's an issue of time. How prepared are the youth to take over or to lead this country? Because as we saw in Kenya, the youth were able to demand for their rights, which they successfully did. But in Uganda, it was a different case. And then, as we know, the majority population of Uganda is the youth. So I'll ask you, this is a final question, if you could summarize your answers. How prepared are the youth to take on the government? Are they educated, prepared enough? Has the education sector played a good role in preparing the youth? And also the coalition as Kenya, because I know Ugandans usually take examples of Kenya and usually act because our actions are closely synonymous with those of the Kenyans. How they get into coalitions just immediately before the elections and they form a quick political party and then they get a leader. How organized can the youth be to make that happen? Yes. We shall start from the extreme left and we shall come like this.
Thank you so much. For me, I would like to think of that comparison you're making. I would like to think about it this way. It's not that we are copying what Kenya is doing or what Kenya did. No. I believe it's the cause. It's just a similar cause that we are fighting for our rights. We are fighting against corruption. It's not that we are copying them. It's just that the cause is similar. The youth are standing up saying enough is enough. So it's not all about a copy and a paste thing. I have always seen those comparisons being made that Ugandans are copying what is being done in Kenya. It's not. It's only that the cause is similar, the objectives are similar. I hope we are together. So how prepared are the youth? It's not until their electoral forms that will put a leveled ground for all of us to compete. The government or the electoral commission should moderate the financing of campaigns. It shouldn't be someone with the highest amounts of money to win the race. It should be moderated. I hope we're together. Then the violence should be stopped. We saw in 2021 people being shot directly. A policeman is standing there, a civilian is standing there, unarmed, but this gentleman is shooting at someone, at a civilian. So how do you expect I, Caleb, to engage in politics if at all I know that the guy can easily shoot at you? And what happens after him shooting at me, even when there is clear evidence that person shot at someone? There was a documentary ran by, I think, CNN, showing a patrol doing all this mess, shooting at people, doing all kinds of weird things. But did the government follow up? Were these people punished for their kind of actions? So it's not until the government revises all these unfortunate things that they have been doing for the youth to engage in politics.
Okay.
Two, they have deliberately suffocated the civic space, just like the name of this, of our session or of the platform that we are on. And they have done it deliberately. Why would you abolish political science as a subject in school? Why? Today, I do education. I'm a teacher in training, and I'm a science teacher, or I'm a science teacher trainee. Why would you? I want to talk about how the suffocation is deliberate. We are fronting science, science, science. But then we cannot, our country cannot flourish with scientists only. Even an artist can be innovative in his own way. Someone in humanities can be creative in their own way. It shouldn't be strictly that it is a scientist to come up with the good innovative ideas. It's the scientist that makes good things.
So you believe that the promotion of the scientific aspect of education profoundly in this country is to suffocate maybe any kind of competition in the political space?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So why did they abolish political science in high school or in secondary?
Okay.
Why did they? I'm glad in this new curriculum, the competence-based, they are trying to blend it in back. But then, this suffocation is deliberate. When we are completely ignorant about what is actually happening in our country, when we cannot deliberate intellectually, when all of us are violent, when we do our things in a violent manner, it's a win for them. So, for the youth to engage in politics, one, they have to be civically aware of what is happening. Read the Constitution. Though these people are trying to make it such a big thing, a complicated one, a complex thing, reading the Constitution. That's a story for another day. Thank you so much.
Okay. Then we shall go to Itungo Joan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. One word or advice I have for the youth, whom I'm among the youth, and we are ahead of 2026. We are planning for 2026. I would encourage us to participate in all levels. I would encourage us that the same energy that we put on spaces, it should be the same energy that we put on ground. Most of us have been into the urban areas. We have learned a lot, which has helped us to change our mindset. However, I think we need to take this knowledge and pass on the sensitization to even the people in the local areas. And we should not aim at catching the big fish, but also start on the local areas, positions. You can go back to your village, run for LC, you can run for councillor, you can run for any position based on the fact that we have the knowledge in regards to the requirements for us to run for those positions. And as the youth, I think we need to change the mindset that we have. Our mindset is locked in a place of I cannot handle this thing, it is too big for me. I cannot run for this position. The incumbent has been there for so long, so how do I run against this incumbent? However much politics are monetized, I believe that also ideologies that we believe in can help you to run and win a race. Because I've been into politics and I've won, I've lost, so I have gotten the experiences from both sides. You can win with the money, you can lose with the money. Not that every person with the money has won. why have the other people without the money won? That means they had other strategies that they improvised to make sure that they win, those with money. So that can help us to open our mindset that it's not only the money, but also with the little that we have, we can make it through. And then the other thing I have for the youth is that I can appeal to the government that we need sensitization as the youth. We need mentorship. And as for now, most people are in universities, most people are in secondary schools. They don't know about what is happening as we plan for 2026. The registers are being updated and people have not yet signed, have not yet, taken on their names. So I think this information should be taken into the local areas, should be taken into the rural areas so that everyone is updated on what is ahead of us. Yes, but I encourage all of us to step up where you feel you're being lowered down. I think it's upon our own energy, it's upon our own motivation that we fight for our own spaces. Yes, no one is going to fight for our spaces. We need to fight our own spaces. And leadership is not about the position you have, but the influence that you have on the communities. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Itungo Joan. And then I'll have Mr. Aybale.
Thank you very much. Well, it's very absurd that you didn't give me the chance to defect back on my colleague's submissions because he was making very, very wrong accusations. But I know that time will come.
Definitely.
All I can tell the youth out there is believe in yourself. Because this issue of saying the president has served for long, there's nothing we can do, elections are rigged, there's nothing we can do, that is your mindset playing games. If you feel you have the power to impact the change, as my colleague said, get up and make the movement. Because that change won't find you in your bedroom on X complaining. That change won't find you with your friends in placards on the streets complaining. And this goes like a food for thought for the politicians who are in parliament who have lasted more than 2 terms. It's high time they take the word of change out of their mouth. Because as long as you're still exceeding the 2nd term in parliament, you cease to be eligible to talk about change. I call upon my youth, it's time we start fighting from down going up. Because it doesn't make sense when you fight from up coming down.
True.
If you feel the presidential seat is too heavy for you, start with your area MPs. Ask him or her, why are you going for the 3rd term? Why are you going for the 4th term? It just breaks my heart that even the youth who are voted in parliament are doing nothing. They reached there, they got blinded with money. So it's high time you stop making too much noise on social media and go down to the ground. Because the people in the ground, or the people at the ground don't know what's happening. Get up, go back home, sensitize those fellow local people. Because we are all supposed to educate each other. Let's not give the challenge to one person, the Electoral Commission. They can't reach everywhere. So let's consume the information. Us who are educated, go down, educate our fellow people. And trust me that way, you will enjoy the Uganda you want. But as long as you keep making noise on social media, President Museveni will keep on being president, and the youth will remain making noise. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that submission, Mr. Aybale. Guys, thank you for tuning in to this very complicated episode today. And I've learned a whole lot from these very esteemed guests that we had with us. Fix your fortitude before you go out to fix the world. Believe in yourself and have a reason to fight. And education comes at the forefront. How many people know of what we are fighting for? If something is wrong in the country, why should the smallest portion of the population be the one to lead this fight and very complicated matter? Why can't everyone in the country have this knowledge? And that's what spaces like these ones are doing, to educate everyone out there so that you fight for something, you fix yourself before you go out there to fight. Believe in yourself. And also maybe it's a call out for some of the actions that of the government, maybe you could consider this a check, maybe of the wrong actions that they could be doing. This has been a very great episode. I hope you've learned a lot to put in your daily lives. Thank you for tuning in. and we look forward to bringing you more great content and conversations.